Good day, everyone, and welcome back. Mix 1041 and MixTV.tv. I'm joined by a gentleman who we have talked to a few times now, live from Los Angeles, or live on tape, I guess, is Matt Belloni with Puck News. Matt, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you very much. And obviously, we wanted to speak with you, especially following your reporting from the Oscars a couple of Sundays ago. You were in the room when the slap heard around the world happened. Take us into the Dolby Theater, would you, Matt? Tell me about it.
Sure. I mean, it was quite surreal in the sense that none of us knew what was going on at first. I mean, we all thought it was a bit, that it was something that was pre-planned. I think once we heard the slap, and in the room, it was loud. I mean, my seats were not great, and I still heard it. The Will Smith in the audience swearing and screaming up at Chris Rock definitely told us it was real. I mean, I had people texting me who were watching at home, were like, wait a second, was that real? What just happened? And I was like, 100% real. That was not fake. These guys would never do that, especially the swearing. Like, Will Smith has been a movie star for 30 years. He knows not to do that. So then it was just deathly silent. No one knew what was going on. It was total confusion, and just like no one knew how to react. It was really surreal.
So this happens. Obviously, it happens on the worldwide stage. And going into the Oscars, I had been reading your reporting and other stories, getting ready for the Academy Awards. Already was challenged, and now this happens. So I got to ask you, Matt, what happens now to the Academy Awards? Some would say, well, in the short term, it may have helped as far as attention goes, but does it damage the long-term brand?
Oh, absolutely. It damages the brand. I mean, this is hugely embarrassing for the Oscars and for the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, which puts it on. I mean, they are furious. Will Smith has resigned from the Academy, but they now have to figure out whether to punish him, and they could take away his privileges to attend the show, to be nominated. That's kind of all they can do. If they really wanted to, they could take back the Oscar, but I don't think they're going to do that. People like Harvey Weinstein and Roman Polanski and Bill Cosby, they still have their awards. So I don't think they're going to do that. I think they are going to kick him out in the sense that he will not be allowed to attend or be nominated. But then what does the Oscars brand do going forward? Because it's sort of become a laughing stock around the world now that they allowed this to happen. And it wasn't just that it happened on stage. It was that he was allowed to sit there in the audience for 30 minutes after this happened, and then get up on stage and give that crazy speech in which he sort of justified his own behavior, or attempted to justify the behavior. Not everyone, a lot of people gave him a standing ovation for that speech. So a lot of people look terrible here, and the Academy's really got to consider this a complete rebuild of its reputation.
And, Matt, I read your reporting that said, look, not everybody stood up. There was a pocket of people that stood up in the theater. You were in the room. Tell me about when Will Smith got up and made his Best Actor acceptance speech.
Yeah, I mean, it may have looked at home like everyone was giving him a standing ovation, because that lower portion of the audience, which was mostly the stars, the actors that were nominated, and some of the high-profile filmmakers were in the seated tables and booths down below. The majority of those people were giving a standing ovation. But as you went back into the audience, it was more, quote, regular people. And a lot of us were not. I certainly wasn't. And people around me were not, although that was a lot of media. But, it was, I don't want to put a percentage on it, but I'd say probably more people than were giving a standing ovation, but it was close.
We're joined by Matt Belloni with Puck.News, which is just an unbelievably great site. If you love all things having to do with entertainment and also the business of entertainment and politics and the intersection thereof, Matt is a co-founder and former editor of The Hollywood Reporter. You let's talk about as you've been doing Will Smith, and also I'd like to get your take on Chris Rock. First of all, Will Smith. What happens to Will Smith? We've read reports last weekend that he's apparently Netflix and I forget now, not maybe Sony, somebody else has paused some projects. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, it's unclear when he was going to shoot his next movie. He's got a finished film called Emancipation, which is a slave drama that Apple was going to release later this year. Apple has not said whether it will still release that movie as planned. But beyond that, he had not taken any other acting jobs. And there was some speculation that he was planning to step back a little bit anyways. But now everything is on pause. I don't know that a big traditional studio is going to spend $100 million on a Will Smith movie until they can be confident that he has rehabbed his image. And that's really what's going on here, is the team around him is deciding how they're going to respond, whether he is going to do a big Oprah interview or donate to an anti-violence charity or just kind of go away for a few months. We'll see what happens.
Can he come back from this?
I think he can. I mean, there are examples in the past of big international superstars who have salvaged their careers after big meltdowns. Tom Cruise is a perfect example after the whole Oprah couch jumping Scientology scandal. He, ultimately used the Mission Impossible franchise to bring him back to stardom. Mel Gibson is another one after his anti-Semitic rant and his, problems in his personal life. He fell back on directing. He's a talented director and he was able to work as a director. He still acts these days. He's not a movie star like he once was, but he was able to come back, so to speak. I don't know if that is going to be the exact path for Will Smith, but I do think that he has 30 years of goodwill with people to leverage in this case and say, listen, this was a mistake. This was something that, I snapped and regret deeply. And I think people ultimately will give him the benefit of the doubt. It's just going to take time.
Matt, how about Chris Rock? Let's talk about Chris Rock. Obviously, the other end of the slap.
Yeah, I mean, Chris Rock has really come out of this with a lot of accolades, I think. Mm-hmm. People are really saying, they may not agree with the joke that he told, and it wasn't one of his best jokes. And, there's a debate as to whether he knew or didn't know that Jada Pinkett Smith had her medical condition that really seemed to be the cause of Will Smith going nuts. I tend to believe him that he didn't know, just given his track record in comedy of not making fun of physical or mental ailments like that. But his reaction to what happened has been universally praised. Just the fact that he kept his composure on stage, he didn't fight back and turn this into something that could have gone even uglier, a bigger deal. He's been on tour. He's on a comedy tour right now, and he addressed it a little bit on the first night, but I could see him kind of being a little bit quieter about that. And I think his reputation is only going to grow based on this.
And I guess, like you alluded to earlier, the interviewers are probably lining up. Do you anticipate one or both, Will Smith, Chris Rock, giving some kind of interview following all this?
I think Will Smith will. I think that will be part of his path back, whether it's Oprah or someone else. He will do a kind of introspective tell-all interview. I don't see Chris Rock doing that. I think that he tends to prefer to speak through his comedy, and he has that platform where he can get on stage anytime he likes. He's scheduled to do a Netflix special later this year. Maybe he'll do it there. I think that is going to be his preferred venue to speak. I don't see him doing some big interview. Could be wrong, though.
Did they, just two more questions, did they, lots been made that the Academy Awards, there were people trying to make Will Smith leave prior to his collection of the award or acceptance of the award. Has that ever been proven? Did that happen?
what my reporting indicates is that the leadership of the Academy did want him to leave, but there were some influential voices in the discussion. First of all, Will Smith's publicist, who was the conduit that was communicating directly with him, she was not in favor of him leaving because he was not in favor of leaving. He said he would think about it. In addition, the producer of the show, Will Packer, was not in favor of asking him to leave because he said he had talked to Chris Rock backstage, and Chris Rock, in his words, not only didn't want to press charges, but didn't want any punishment to come of this. Now, there's some debate because sources close to Chris Rock have said he never said anything about wanting him to stay in the room. He was just talking about not wanting this to become a criminal matter. So whether that producer was kind of fudging it a little bit is left open. But I think it's a tough situation in a live television show context when you have a gigantic movie star saying he doesn't want to leave. You have to really decide, okay, this is something we are going to force the issue on. And the Academy didn't do that. And I think they're suffering the consequences of that now.
Matt Belloni, Puck.News. Final question. The Grammys moving award shows this past Sunday night. Less than 10 million viewers. What do you make of that?
I think that is a sign of the times in live linear television. The audience there just is going away. It's, an older crowd now that doesn't really connect with pop music and some of the artists that are featured on the Grammys, and the general decline in interest in award shows. The Grammys is actually a really good show if you watch it. It was really well produced. They had great artists on there, but it wasn't, 5 years ago, these shows were getting 20 million viewers, and now it's down to about half that. So I think it's more of a sign of the times than anything, problematic with the show itself.
Matt Belloni, Puck.News. You and your team are doing an incredible job, and just keep up the great work.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much.